that nose up. That was easy.
Welcome to the shop. Got the greatest, best beginner plane ever. This should be your first plane. Probably not. But what I do want to do is go through why this plane is fantastic. And let me start off by saying, you know, I love this plane. When I finally got one, I have flown the heck out of this thing, and I truly believe that, for me, this is my favorite plane. What I wanted to do, though, is to think of this plane as, why wouldn't it be a great beginner plane? What makes a great beginner plane, first off? So let's talk about, you know, the flyability of the plane. You know, how well does this plane fly? What are the bad habits of this plane? What are the controls like? Is this really hard to handle? How does this plane, compared to some of the others, handle on the ground, landing and takeoff? I've got some planes that are, I love them. They're fantastic. They're a little tricky on the ground. Complexity of flight systems, meaning landing gear and flaps, like on here. There's a little to that. And when you're flying, that's another level of, not skill so much, but just things to think about. Maintenance. You know, how difficult is this plane to maintain? I've got some planes that, you know, you got to tweak it a little bit every once in a while because of the material and because of how they're laid out and made, where this one may be different. Durability, which is a big part of being that beginner plane or any plane. You know, how durable is it? Is it super fragile and you get one little bad bounce and the thing breaks? And then the last, cost. You know, because you're investing a lot of money in these planes. Is it worth it to have a plane like this versus, let's say, something else? You know, a true, you know, $150, you know, beginner plane. So anyway, let me take you along and kind of just look at this plane from that lens and go over some things and compare it to other planes I have to share, you know, why is this plane maybe a good beginner? Maybe not. But I sure want to share what I think of this and compare it to some other planes, thinking of those categories and how it stacks up. So, stick around.
All right, ease of flyability, or however you want to say it. It's, again, you know, is this a trainer? Maybe not. But when you look at a trainer, how easy they are to fly from a stability standpoint, from a slow fly standpoint. You know, this plane here, the CNHL Super Tucano, can fly incredibly slow. I mean, I'm surprised that it doesn't stall. So going up and doing a stall test, and it just mushed. It didn't drop a wing. It didn't do anything violent. So the controls, depending how you have them set up, I have mine set up not crazy aggressive, but enough that I can do some sharp maneuvers or like knife edge and such. But from a beginner perspective, toning that down, now you have a very easy, slow flying, docile plane.
Nope.
All right, now let's compare the Flightline Spitfire 1.6. Equally great flying airplane. I think the slow flight characteristics of the Spitfire are not nearly as good. And it'll get you on an approach. But it is a great flyer, and I sure love it. One of the other things to think about from a stability standpoint is how well does it handle the wind. Now this is a bigger plane, and it weighs a little bit more than your standard, let's say, FMS Ranger, you know, 1.2. But notice how this thing flies through the wind. Now I do have AS3X on it, and that really helps. But because of its size and because of its geometry, and there's a lot of things, I found that it was an easier plane to fly in windy conditions.
Yeah, bouncing all over. A little bit of a crosswind. Starting to get a little worse.
So, this plane flies stable, flies slow, has no bad habits of stalling. So let's now take a look at how does it take off and land. How's the ground handling? Because that's a big deal. As you can see, going on from a takeoff perspective, you could punch the throttle full throttle if you wanted to. Or you could really kind of go nice and easy and slow. Now, for takeoffs, flaps, no flaps, doesn't matter. Now, there's some complexity with that flap and the landing gear. But again, not a problem. One of my favorite warbirds, an FMS P-47, but to get it to track straight down the runway on takeoff, a little bit more challenging, not for the beginner. Now let's talk about landings. This is where this plane, I think, really shines. Let me show you two landings that I did. You know, one in a lot of wind and another one nice and calm, and how slow this plane will land.
Woo, doggy, it's windy.
And I don't want to pick on my Spitfire because I really like her. However, she is a lot more difficult to land. You know, definitely not a trainer. Look, she comes in smooth, looking good, and a little bit, there goes a wingtip. Dang it. Frankly, a lot of trainer tail draggers can be a little tough to land sometimes. From a maintenance perspective, this plane's no different than really any others that have retracts. And that's really it, right? You've got the retracts that you want to keep them clean. From a maintenance or just traveling with the plane, I travel it in two parts and just attach the wing when I get to the field. It's a pretty simple process. So good and bad, right? The coolness factor of the retracts is awesome. The size is big, but that also helps with the stability. So from a maintenance perspective and putting it together, I would say it's kind of a wash. Like I mentioned when it came to maintenance, you know, you do have the retracts, which brings complexity. My favorite beginner plane is the FMS Ranger in the 1.2 size, and it's simple. 4-channel, no frills, it just flies great and stable. This will fly great and stable, but you do have the landing gear and the flaps. You don't have to use the flaps. This plane will fly pretty slow without using flaps. It's just, again, adding on to the coolness factor, but it does create some complexity and maintenance because retracts can get damaged and have to be replaced. From a beginner standpoint, durability is pretty important. On the Ranger, and I'm comparing this, let's say, to a classic trainer like the Ranger, the front nose wheel is a spring. You smash that front nose wheel in because you landed poorly, and the Ranger can handle it. This Super Tucano, that's going to be an expensive mistake because you're going to break that propeller, which is about $12, $13. And sure, you might also break that nose gear. That will cost you a couple bucks, and it's a little harder to get because this plane, getting spare parts, is a little more challenging. So there's a kind of a big negative there. The rest of the durability, the plane is fantastic, and I have had zero issues with things not working properly. Let's compare some costs. This plane, all in, you know, with the plane itself, the receiver you have to buy, and I'm going to go with the high-end receiver with telemetry, and a quality 6S 5,000 milliamp battery. You're looking at $650 for the Super Tucano, all in. Comparing that to, let's say, the Ranger, with the Ranger's $180 plus a good receiver. It has reflex as far as a gyro in it, so you can go with a lower cost system. You could almost get 3 Rangers for the price of the Super Tucano. So of course, that's expected. The coolness factor, though, it's got to weigh in. So anyway, all right, let's go back to the shop and let me kind of summarize a couple things of what I think.
Welcome back. Okay, so yes, I know this is not a beginner plane, but it almost could be. Let's say one has unlimited funds and they don't care, and they've got a buddy who will teach them how to fly. Probably could pull it off with this. Might mess up the landing gear a couple times, but from a easy flying stability, easy to land and take off, very few gotchas, this plane fits that bill. I love the plane. It's fantastic. It suits me exceptionally well. Out of all the planes I have, you know, right now, out of my many planes, this is my go-to if I can. If the weather's right, I'm going to take this plane. Weather right meaning it's not snowy or raining. Wind, as you saw it handles wind just fine. Look, this is a fantastic plane. If you're so inclined to get one of these things, go on to Hobby King's website, go to this plane and hit that buy pre-order. Put your money down, otherwise you're not going to get one. They're really hard to get. I tried a couple times to get notification when it comes in. That didn't work for me. I never got one. So I just said, heck with it. Here's my $500. I'll get it when the next shipment comes in, and hello, I got one. Anyway, hope you liked the video. If you do, hit that like button. Appreciate it. It helps me out. Leave a comment if you have any questions. I answer all comments. If you shoot shoot me a comment, I'm going to respond. I try to get to everyone. So there you go. Have a great day. Take care.